some intros. And open it up. All right. So I can kick us off here. Hi, I'm Megan Powers. I work at CarMax. I've been an Adobe champ. This is my third year, and I've been at CarMax for almost 10 years. And at CarMax, I lead a team called Digital Data Strategy, and we're responsible for capturing every piece of digital information about our customers or associates on all of our digital properties. That's CarMax.com, our apps, our associate-facing sites, etc. So we own tools like Adobe Analytics, Adobe Launch, Adobe Target, Full Story, Google Analytics, etc. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'll kick it over to Christine.
Sure. I'm Christine. I am a solution architect at EY, and I'm about 1 week away from my 9-year work anniversary here at EY. So very excited about that. This is my first year as an Adobe champ, and it's been fantastic. So hopefully I get to come back next year, but have really enjoyed the group and office hours and all of that good fun stuff. So, and then I'll pass it along to Crystal.
Hi, everybody. My name is Christelle Guyden. I'm a 4th-year champion. I work for a company called Gen Digital, which has a lot of brands for cybersecurity software, so like Norton, LifeLock, Avast, AVG, CCleaner, Avira, Reputation Defender, etc. Yeah, I've been doing Adobe Analytics for almost 2 decades. Yeah, office hours is always fun. So ask us any questions. Surprise us. Make a jump. And on that note, here's Catherine.
Hey everyone, I'm Kat. I'm a 3X Adobe Analytics champ. I run the product analytics arm at ShiftLab, which is a consulting agency based out of Toronto, working with some major US retailers. And before ShiftLabs, I was at Home Depot Canada.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. So what we're going to do here, we have a few topics we can talk through that we kind of came up with. Some were posts we found recently in Experience League. We didn't see anything come into the specific office hours question submission for this meeting specifically. So what I want to do first is just open it up to the chat for any specific questions you all have, because we'll prioritize those first. So it's going to be real awkward because I'm going to sit here for 30 seconds in silence and wait for questions in the chat. And if none come up, then we'll go into some of our material we prepared. But if, as you think of questions, please post them in the chat and we'll jump back and make sure to answer those. While we're waiting, I'm just sharing the. Okay, Ying has a question. The increase in talk about AI. Do you have anything to share on generative engine optimization? I don't. I don't know if anyone else does.
I do not either. Sorry.
No.
It's a new acronym for me.
That sounds even more broad than Adobe Analytics. So let's see what AI tells me about AI. Gotcha. This is something. Yeah, Ying, this is where I was going with it. This is something that's on my radar to look into, like to do some more research on. Because, we have marketing channels in Adobe Analytics, but as more and more traffic starts to maybe come from AI, I do want to do some research to better understand how in our marketing channels, or like if we can identify AI versus like just regular SEO, Google, paid search for example, is like, if we can do it, how do we do it? And also if we should do that. Like, and I think that last part will be up to each company, right? But should you consider an AI generated send traffic to your site as something a unique marketing channel? I think that's a question for each company, but that is in my, I don't know about you guys, but I have put notes for myself in my Outlook and don't snooze them until I do it. And so this, I have a snooze reminder. It's coming up every 2 hours for me at the moment that says research AI marketing channels in Adobe Analytics. So
That's definitely something we've come across. One of the teams I'm supporting right now is a news organization, so this is very this has been very impactful for them. They have noticed search, traditional search tracking has dropped, some social. So I think it's a very relevant question. But yeah, I have also not spent enough time looking into it. So maybe I'll set those 2-hour reminders and get some progress there. But that's a great question.
Yep.
Yeah, I love the discipline, Megan. The only thing that I have done is just like within the refer marketing channel, I'm just grouping like refers that are AI. That's the only thing I'm doing, right? So as far as SEO in particular, nothing.
And Christelle, how do those refer AI appear?
It's like .ai or chatopenai.com or chatgpt.com, things like that. So I just have like a list. I'm guessing that Adobe will do this at some point, kind of like how they do social and they have, a list that they upkeep. I'm guessing that in the future they'll probably, instead of grouping all these AI and LLMs under refer, they're going to have like a separate bucket for it. Until then, I just have a segment that does it, and I maintain my little list. Yeah. So refer ends in .ai or like Gemini.google.com. Things like that, and yeah. Even actually, my SEO person, she manages this segment now to, because they're more up to date on all of this. So that's the only thing I've done on my side. Very, very basic.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'd love if you could share that with me because, like I said, this is on my research to-do list. I would imagine, like you said, if you, for example, generate the marketing channel that says social networks, it gives you the whole kind of pre-populated list of what Adobe deems social, and you can add or remove as you choose. I would imagine they will do something like this in the marketing channels where they just have it AI, kind of preset that you pick and can change it as you like. But, yeah. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think it'll continue to just become more and more relevant, and I would expect Adobe to respond to that soon, or if they're not already working on
For
it.
social, at least, like I think you have to like look up. They have a list that they maintain, but you still have to do it yourself. But you can check that list. Like I check it every quarter or twice a year or whatever. And if I see some social domains that are significant for us, I add them on there. Like I just, a couple weeks ago, I noticed I didn't have IG on there. It's not like a big source of traffic for us, but see, like if you don't do it, they have a list that they maintain, but it doesn't push to your marketing channels automatically. Like you have to go in and modify it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think so. I'm 95% sure because I had to add it manually. So yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to check that list out. Yeah, I learned things on these calls too. Okay. Yep. Let's see. let's see. Yeah, keep the questions coming in the chat. We can jump to one of the questions we've seen recently in Experience League, which is just always a good topic to talk about. We saw a good question on new versus return visits. And then I added in there CNAME, since that's a project I worked on recently. And we did see some changes in new and return visits once we implemented that. So here's the link to this post if anyone wants to reference it. Put in the chat. But this person was asking, like, hey, we're getting, I'm trying to look at new visitor logic. They have a visitor container segment where visit number equals 1. And they're seeing like a whole bunch of new visitors. I'm not familiar with their site and how accurate that number is, but a few of us commented on it. I also use visit num equals 1 as my new visitor segment, but I use it with a visit container. As Jen points out in this article, a visitor segment is going to result in that large count of visits because it will count all visits for a visitor as long as their first visit is in that time frame you're looking at. So if you're looking at the month of June and I, as a visitor, had my first visit June 1st, my second visit June 8th, my third visit June 14th, and my fourth visit June 20th, and you're pulling all of June and like counting all those up, maybe by day. If you're using that visitor segment, I'm going to probably look like I'm 4 new visitors because it's saying like, hey, it's pulling in all those visits as new visitors because it's saying, hey, you had your first new visit during that window of time that you're looking at because it's a visitor container. So if you want to do something like that, you want to limit it to a visit or a hit container. And then other suggestions from the post were comparing that segment they made to Adobe has a first time visit default dimension. You can look at a shorter date range to see if your percentage looks more balanced. Again, with that visitor segment, the longer you go out, the more skewed your data is going to be. And then if you do have a persistent ID, you can use that to better track your returning visitors. This person suggested a login ID, but we also have an anonymous visitor ID in addition to an authenticated ID, and we've used that as well. Other things that can affect it, it's only going to register new. It's going to register new visit even if you're the same person, but on a new device, a new browser, or if you clear your cookies, if you're using incognito, if you're on a web versus app, all that stuff is going to increase your visitor count. Same thing if you've changed your cookie settings, etc. Any of the other champs want to weigh in here? Any of that?
We do something different. It's kind of like a legacy setup, and I have to admit that I don't use it too much, but we set a first-time visitor event on our side. So it's just an event that we set if like the Adobe cookie isn't present, and then we set our own time. So you can set 200 days or whatever. I think anyway, most users are clearing their cookies in that time frame, so it doesn't matter much, which is why I don't use this too much. But that's what we do. Like we have an event that fires if you're a first-time visitor ever. Like if there's no cookie, we fire an event that says first-time visitor. It just, in some cases, it's helpful to have that as a custom metric, like a calculated metric, instead of, using the visit number Adobe default. But yeah, I'm not sure that's the best way. It's more of like a legacy setup. I think we did that 15 years ago. So yeah.
I mean, if anything, it can just give you another point of troubleshooting, right? Like another data point. If you're seeing some funny stuff going on with the other things, like, okay, well, let me take a look at that one and see what that one's saying. And I assume, Christella, that's just, it's dependent on device and browser, just like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just easy. Like if you have, imagine you have like your rows, and then you have columns, you have visits, visitors, and then you just have one that's first time visitor. I can just drag that in, and then I
Yep.
have repeat that I can build off of that. It's just like an easy thing to drag in. But
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. That's cool. And is that based on Adobe's cookie or your own site's cookie?
it's actually s.getNewRepeat. You know what that function is?
I
Yeah, I'm gonna
don't.
stick that in chat. Let me see.
I wonder if that works on the SDK.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably it does, actually.
This is just becoming like my personal to-do list. So
Yeah, again, this is like a very legacy thing we did, and I have to use it that much, but I don't know if it's useful to you. And you can see how we set it. Like you can go to norton.com on a, incognito browser. You'll see event 69 fire.
Cool.
Ying also has a comment in the chat about could this potentially be any bot traffic? And I hear you on the PTSD with bots. I feel that in my soul.
Same. Literally this morning, dealing with bot. I feel like that's all I've been doing the past like 6 months.
How much of your traffic would you guys say is like considered bot, like, or that you're filtering out from your reporting?
It's hard to tell, right? Because you filter it out and don't know. But like, I mean, we just see these crazy spikes sometimes, and we'll narrow it down. Like, nope, definitely not human, not from a marketing campaign, not from a tagging mistake. It's like, and I've developed a very close relationship with our InfoSec team. And like, yep, it's bots. And then we'll have to go through the rigmarole of blocking them and stuff like that.
How are you blocking them? Are you doing that like processing rules, or are you?
Usually in the Adobe admin with the bot blocking or block like exclude by IP.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then sometimes like our we've been doing a few things because it's been such a prevalent issue lately, but like block them in Adobe admin. Our IST team blocks them in our upstream, server monitored, so they never even hit the site in the first place. And then we've also partnered with that team to go in and write some custom stuff in Adobe Launch to block them at that level as well. So trying to plug all the holes we can. But yeah, Ying, you're probably right. Like probably there is a decent chunk of new visit traffic that is bot, especially if maybe you're seeing a spike in new visit traffic.
I never thought about blocking them at the Adobe launch level. We still have a similar process to that, but then our last mile defense is just a segment that we throw onto everything. So it's a good idea.
Yep, it's something new. Like we just implemented it a week or two ago. So yeah, again, it's hard to tell how effective it is because you're blocking them now. So yeah, so but yeah, I like this is an interesting idea, Christelle. And you said, sorry, it's Adobe's. You say it's Norton's cookie or Adobe's cookie?
For what? For first-time visitors?
Uh-huh.
I think, hold on. See, like I said, I haven't touched it for 15 years.
Yeah.
Let me look into that and.
Yeah. Okay. Be interesting.
Okay. It's that get new repeat function. So let me see.
Okay.
I don't think it's Adobe's. Well, I'm not sure. I'm gonna be quiet and research it.
Okay, sure. Yeah. While you're doing that, I could talk about CNAME a little bit. So just because it was related to new versus return visits. So this was a project we kicked off, we did last year. It really started when toward the beginning of the year when Google said, hey, we're going to deprecate third-party cookies now starting in September. So we said, okay, we got to get in gear here. So we started looking at ways to protect not only our analytics, but also our target. We didn't want target is based off Adobe's ECID, which is considered a third-party cookie. We didn't want any target experiences being disrupted by, the browser thinking it's a new cookie and kicking that out. And then all of a sudden, you get put into a new target experience. So that was a big impetus for it, as well as analytics. It turned out that Google didn't end up deprecating the cookies, which was good, but that could still be coming. And other browsers like Apple were and still are doing that. So how CNAME works, and Adobe has a lot of documentation about this, but it takes Adobe's visitor ID and puts it in your domain. So it turns Adobe's ID into a first-party ID. And that is a very not technical explanation. But what should happen when you do that is it should result in an increase in return visitors and a decrease in new visitors, but it should be more accurate. AKA, it's what's been happening the whole time. Because what's happening now on browsers like Apple, if they are retiring that third-party cookie every 7 days. So if your customer comes on day 1 and then day 9, they're looking like a new visitor in Adobe Analytics. So what this does is like, nope, they're a return visitor because we recognize their cookie because it's now a first-party cookie, not a third-party cookie. So those new visitors were being overcounted before because their cookies were being reset every few days. So you should see this shift, and you should especially see it with browsers like Apple and others that do stuff like that. So it's been good for us. A couple considerations to keep in mind, like we asked, we did a lot of announcements about it. We picked a date pretty far in the future. We said like, hey, we're going to do this like in September because that's right at the beginning of a new quarter for us. So it didn't affect, because we asked teams to pause their target tests, because the day you switch on CNAME, that's going to make people who were in a target test like re-eligible for being randomized into a different experience. So we asked teams like, hey, pause your test, or like stop your test this date, give us a couple days to launch this, and then you can turn any tests on that you want. So that was a consideration, that you might need to pause your target tests and make that announcement to people, because you will see a shift in traffic. It will affect your target if there's anything that's running. And another thing we learned that is that it doesn't work in apps, like native mobile apps. Maybe it would in yours. It didn't work in ours. So keep that in mind. But it is a good way to get more accurate data. I'll pause there for any either questions from the chat or other comments from the other presenters.
So it sounds like there is, like, just people should be aware that there could be they're likely in visitors, but it's not like it's truing it up, really, is what it sounds like to your point. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. As long as people are aware that might happen, it's probably a little easier to digest.
Yep. It's not a decrease in visitors or visits. Those numbers will be, yes, it is a decrease in visitors.
Yeah. Visitors, right.
New unique visitors.
Yeah.
Not a decrease in visits, though. Same number of visits and all that stuff. They're just being correctly bucketed now as return instead of new.
Right. Cool. Yeah, that's something we've looked at. And honestly, I was like, do we have to go here yet? So I'm glad to know somebody has gone through there and had that experience.
Yep. Yeah. And, we did it last year because we were already well far down the road by the time Google said, oh, psych, we're not doing the deprecating anymore. But it was still a good idea for us because, like I said, Apple's already doing it. So it's up to you. How much do you think your site's being affected by it? Since doing it, we've been able to see some better analytics on our target tests, because people are being put in the same buckets they were before and not always regenerated into new buckets. So that's been helpful. And again, just the more accurate new versus return counts.
Hey, Megan, there's two things I don't get. Did you do this, number one, did you do this just for Target, right? Like it was the whole goal, like for Target? And then number two, what were you doing before? Like you didn't have a first party cookie?
We've always had our first party cookie, but, Adobe uses their own cookie to determine new versus return visits and for Target.
They use their own for Target. So, but I mean, isn't that the AMCVID or whatever long acronym there? It's that, right? The Adobe Marketing Cloud Visitor ID, or I don't know what they're calling it nowadays.
It might be the Experience Cloud ID.
Yeah, whatever, same thing.
Yeah. And this was a recommendation also made by our Adobe consultants. So, like I said, it may not be something everyone has to do now, but it's probably a good idea to protect yourself as more and more browsers are going this direction. And if I'd pick a not busy time. Like if you're a traditional retail site, I probably wouldn't do this like between Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? Pick a kind of dead time for your organization and stuff like that. Related to this, we've also done, we're about to do a project for Target where we're changing, because by default, right, it uses the Adobe Experience Cloud ID, the ECID. We're changing it to by default use our authenticated ID so that visitors who are authenticated across devices can see the same experience. And the logic goes like, okay, when that ID is present, it'll use that. When it's not present, it'll just default back to the ECID. So that'll be a cool project too, just because that should improve like analytics for Target and customer experience, right? And then a thing we're going to pursue next year is the FPID. I don't know if anyone has done that, but that's the first party ID, which again, I think is going to take the Adobe Visitor ID, and what CNAME does is take the Adobe Visitor ID and changes it to a first party with your domain. But what FPID tells Adobe, hey, don't use Adobe's Visitor ID, use like our own anonymous ID. So that's a project we're going to explore too.
So instead of using the ECID, it's going to use like your GUID.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So haven't done that. We need our whole site to be on the SDK, like one property first. But yeah, there's some projects we're working on. If anyone has any questions on this. Anyone else done anything cool related to this?
Cool. No, I do want to know how painful it is for you in the next year.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
It's cool though.
I think that, yeah, that's really cool, especially considering, like you were saying, the Apple browsers kind of do it a little, the cookie cleansing a little more frequently. But as people, like you had mentioned, start to get even more conscientious of what cookies are there, clearing their cookies, blocking cookies, I think that's, even though Apple's not deprecate or Google's not deprecating it, like I think we will continue to see people be more aware of it on their own.
I agree, right? And I think you'll see more, not just at like the browser doing it, but more options for people to be able to set their own cookie management. And yeah, and exactly how and which cookies are allowed and which sites they're allowed on and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a good thing to probably research if you haven't yet, just to see what's out there and make sure you're getting the most accurate data you can. So, cool. All right, let's see. We can move on. Catherine, I think you found this one. Do you want to talk through this one? This got a bunch of chatter on Experience League as well.
Yeah. Do you want to drop the experience, or maybe even pull it up? Experience League post?
Yes. I will drop that Experience League. And let me pull it up and switch my screen share. Oh, wrong one.
So this one got a lot of engagement, but I thought it was just an interesting question posed and something that has a lot of like use cases. But this person wanted to know for a specific page, given a bunch of metrics that they track, how to come up with like a aggregated metric or kind of score to measure performance given all of those interactions. So we can read some of the responses in the post, but it sounded like some of the respondents were just recommending using custom calculated metrics to build something out as a calculated metric in Workspace, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, like versus a calculated metric instead of a segment?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So I guess, yeah, to do that, you need to have, right, like events for all these, right? Like, did you view a video? Do you have an asset download?
And then mash them all together into one giant calculated metric. I mean, that's what I've done on my side. It is so ugly, cumbersome, manual, monkey work. But like the problem that I find is, and I haven't read like all this thread. I know Jen has some replies in here and stuff. What I find is that every page that somebody asked me to create like some magic success metric, like every page for us is so different. Like maybe there's a video, maybe there's not, maybe there's this click, maybe there's a hero banner, maybe this, maybe that. So I really feel like I have to go and check out the page and then build it like custom per page. That's the, if you don't have a site like that, that's great. You know, you could, or if you always have like the same events, you can do that. Me, it's all over the place. I have to do this like on a one-off basis. So my solution is ugly. Like I do exactly what you're saying. I create one metric for each, you know, like videos, whatever, and then I select them all and do create calculated metric and sum them. It's yeah, I don't know, and then create a percentage, you know, with visits to the page to see like how many people did at least one of these success events per visit to the page. Like I don't think my solution is so great. I want to hear you guys and your magic solutions, please.
We have, so every click on our site, we track, I mean, various custom events, right? Like if this were my site, we might have a different event for all these things. But on every click, we fire certain props, like props 3 to 6, that capture the page the customer's on, the link they clicked, the custom position, like if there's multiple links on the, with the same name on the same page, like header or footer or whatever. And then we capture prop 6, which concatenates those 3 things. You could probably accomplish that with the classification too, if you don't want to use 4 props. But that way, like, then yeah, you could build a segment or calculate a metric that says like this or this or this or this. Or you could, like, did they click on anything on the page, and just use a metric or a segment that says like their prop 3 was the page, and or like it contains that page, right? Because then I know like they clicked something on the page, they were engaged. If you wanted obviously specific actions versus any action, then yeah, you'd have to create the more custom segment and pull in the different things. But that's something we do to track general engagement, and that pattern exists on every link on our site, so it's very consistent.
I actually do something similar. We do like an internal ID. And so that thing, the way it's built is like if it goes to cart, it contains underscore cart or underscore store or whatever. And then it has like the page that it originates from and the page, the destination page that it goes to, and the name of the, usually the AM component. Like, so the, is it like the price box? Is it the comp chart? Like, what is it? So we do that, but we don't fire on every click because that costs a lot. So we fire that, we capture it on the next page. Right. So it's like our internal ID. We capture it on the next page. That way it doesn't cost us anything, but we have that on all the main clicks. However, if you have like anchor links within your page that take you from like the hero banner to a comparison chart or something like that, those aren't going to have like that identifier. You see what I mean? So that you have to put in manually. And then if there's a video, you have to put it in manually. And then if there's like a chat click or whatever, you have to put it in manually. So usually we use that internal ID, and we have rules that are in like, it's like a naming convention. That's kind of a thing for developers to uphold, but we try to make it dynamic. So that's how we do it. But if you have like a bunch of different elements on the page, I still feel like you have to build it custom. And real quick, Ying, to answer your question about page scroll, we don't capture page scroll. So that's my answer there.
Yeah, Ying, my guess, and so this is, not our question, this is posted on Experience League. My guess is what this person did in their company is their developers, figured out what constitutes, like what piece of the way down on the page is 50% and what piece of the way down is 75%. And that could be different for desktop and mobile. So, again, this isn't my site, but they could have different events for that, or their developers factored that in somehow, depending on the device type. And then just fire event, like, did the customer get to X point down the screen? We do something similar. We have an event that fires on any scroll, but just because that would be expensive, right? We say only the first time they do that on the site. The reason for that, or in a visit, the reason for that is because we have some pretty lengthy article pages. So sometimes people would land right on the article page, spend 10 minutes reading the article and scrolling, but leave because they're not ready to continue forward. And I would still call that person a really engaged person, but in Adobe, it looks like a bounce, right? Because if they don't click on anything, they're just leaving. So we instituted this, like, did they scroll at least once during their visit? And the first time they do that, we fire the event. And that helps us know that that was a more quality visit than someone who landed didn't click or scroll and left. So that's like something you could do, like a little bit easier way to do something like that. But yeah, my guess is they've had their developers kind of figure out at what points that lives. We've also done stuff where like we'll have a recommendations ribbon on the bottom of one of our pages, and we capture an event when someone clicks on that recommendations ribbon, but we also want to know the denominator, like how many people saw it. And we can't just use page load because it's way at the bottom, right? And so someone may have not actually have seen it. So we do fire an event there if someone scrolls all the way down and hits the certain, breakpoint where that recommendations ribbon lives.
We do something similar. We actually call them like module impressions and module clicks, because we have, like there's, maybe it's related content or recommendations. So some of our content has various modules throughout, and not every piece of content has the same modules. So it's very much like kind of going back to Christelle's point too, is knowing, having some sort of naming consistency to align all of the engagement opportunities. So very consistent naming across the module impressions, across the module interactions. But yeah, lots of, and then it ends up being, server calls for some of these things, but such is how it goes.
I'm guessing that you guys I like this idea of because you can't use average time, because since it's a bounce, you can't use average time, right? Which would have been like a great metric, but you can't use it. But like if you're doing this on every page, like seeing if people scroll once or something, like on not on a mobile, but on a desktop experience, this is just going to cost so much. So I'm guessing you're only doing it on these blog pages. Is that correct?
We do it only the first time in any visit. So it doesn't matter what page they are on. If they land and scroll, we fire the event, and then we don't fire that event anymore during that visit.
Interesting. Okay.
It's purely a binary, like did they scroll or not? If they scroll, they're more engaged than someone who just bounced. Basically, a way to like get a representation of true bounces versus people who were there and maybe they didn't click, but they were more engaged. Yeah, only the first time in a visit, and that doesn't end up costing us very many server calls. Yeah. And Ying, I see you onboarded Content Square. We also use Full Story for like scroll depth, because that kind of comes out of the box with the Full Story stuff. We don't have to implement anything. But in Adobe, we have that like just binary, did they scroll or not event. So I can point out like a couple things. Jen is in this article like recommending using hit-based segment. She's recommending occurrences, pairing that with the occurrences metrics.
I think she's trying to say like you could do a weighted version, right? Where like a video counts more than clicking on like a hero banner or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Like you can give points to each of your success metrics. And
Yep, exactly. So like you can do that in a calculated metric by multiplying that event times the static number, for example. Yeah. That's a cool idea to make that even more powerful.
So complicated. I'm not building it.
Yeah, like you can do some cool things. So instead of treating each engagement equally, you would create an engagement score. Like how engaged is this person? Like, I'd argue someone who scrolls 75% engaged in someone who scrolls 50%. So maybe you take in your calculated metric the number of these scrolls times 0.5 and the number of these scrolls times 0.75. Like you give more weight to it. So, yeah, cool idea.
A cool application of like kind of this or idea is, and it always comes back to bots, but like bot identification as well, where we like looked at user agents and then looked for characteristics that we thought were bots. So if they were direct traffic, new traffic, bounces, like, and decide a weight based on that. And then you could create some even like alerting or just regular reporting to regularly flag user agents that seem bot-like.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like that. Might need to do that soon.
Add it to your
Issue
Outlook.
with all of this is cost, huh?
Yeah.
There's just so many server calls, like it's just costing so much. Like if you do it on some, I would have to do it on very select pages. It's like if we did this on all our sites, it would just cost so much.
Anything else on this article? And I'll just do a ask again. Any questions anyone wants to post in the chat? It can be related to what we've been talking about, or anything totally random. Well, we have a few minutes left. We were talking at the beginning of this call about maybe showing some basics of the new report builder. If anyone doesn't know what report builder is, it's actually a pretty powerful tool available in Adobe Analytics. To get to it, you just go to tools in the top section, and then report builder, and you can download it. Now, if you're like me, you might have to get approval from your IT folks and go through some rigmarole, but it is really cool. It's a great way to create some automated reporting. It's a great way to create some scheduled reporting. It's a great way, like if you know you're going to have a ton of calculations and stuff to do on the side, you can do a lot of those in Adobe, but sometimes, Excel's just right there. It's quick and easy. It's also a great use case. Like I used to use it. I had a big Tableau report that would go out, and at least at the time, Tableau didn't hook up directly with Adobe Analytics, but it did hook up directly to this Excel file that I could save in like an FTP folder, right? So I would basically just go in, and I had this report automated. It ran by itself every week, and then Tableau could pick it up with all the Adobe data, that wasn't something I could do out of the Adobe UI. So it has a lot of cool use cases. I'd encourage you to explore it. Think if there's any use cases you have. But it is, so what it does is, I can show a couple things, and we can do this more next time too, but you can pick, let's do a new one here. You can pick where you want the thing to go. So if I say, let me create a new one. I'm going to put it right here, A7. You can pick what report suite you want it to be in. You can pick your date range. Now this can be from a calendar, like normal, just like in Adobe UI and Analysis Workspace, where you can pick preset dates or use rolling dates. You can use a fixed date and rolling end date, et cetera, et cetera. That's all the same kind of in Workspace, but one cool thing you can do is also say from cell. So let's say I could do like from June 1st to June 30th, or I could say, okay, I want January 1st, 2025 to be my fixed starting date, and I want this to update every day through yesterday. So then you can just, say, okay, this is going to be rolling. It's always going to pull up through yesterday. So in my request, I can say, I want it to go from that to that. So now you've automated this request, right? It's always going to pull from your fixed date to your, like, yesterday, whatever that is. And if you go to next, this will look familiar to a lot of you. This is stuff you see in Workspace, but you can add in dimensions, metrics, segments, etc., and it'll start building out a table for you. So let's say I want page, and I also want, let's see, actually I want day and page, and I also want visits and page views. So you see it's starting to build this out. It's giving you column names, which you can toggle here and turn those off if you want. It's taking those away. You can add in segments. I want this to be mobile. Etc. So this is, a lot of what you're already familiar with in Workspace. You can see how it's building this out. And one setting I like to do in Report Builder is in this settings gear. I like to keep this toggled on. It's enable offline mode. Some of these requests can get pretty big and take a while to run. So what this does is builds out your request for you. And then only when you click run does it actually fill in the data. So this can just be a helpful way to see your report as you're building it out, versus having to run it, wait a few minutes, like, oh shoot, I forgot one thing, go back and run it again. So that's a helpful tip as well. Yeah, and then you'll be able to schedule this just like you can do in Workspace. Oh, and sorry, I lost my request. So okay.
I haven't gotten to use this. I've been using the legacy one still. It's nice to see that this is a little less clunky.
Yeah.
It's more refined, matches like the UI of Workspace a lot nicer. It's not so
Yes.
1980s. So,
yes, because cool. What it used to be like, so if you're in the Adobe admin and you still see things like traffic versus conversion, that's what the old report builder was. This uses the analysis workspace nomenclature like dimensions, metrics, segments, stuff like that. So yeah, a lot more intuitive than the other one, a lot more similar to Workspace for people that know Workspace. So yeah, I just wanted to, that was like a real brief foray into it. Obviously there's a ton you can do in here. You can manage, if like you can have multiple requests in the same sheet. That can be pretty powerful. So you can combine a lot of stuff together, or from different report suites together. Like if you have your .com in your app, or your mobile, or your desktop, or Canada, America, stuff like that. You can put all those here, add them up. You can schedule this to send like to yourself, to stakeholders, etc., on a regular basis. And because we have like this rolling date, that should happen automatically, etc. So yeah, tons of possibilities and use cases. I'd be interested to hear from anyone on some cool use cases that you've come up with. But yeah, just thought I'd demo that real quick. It's something I've been playing with now that I have the new version too. So, and this is how you say, okay, go and refresh all the queries in here. Yeah. So I'll pause there since we're almost at time. Any other questions in the chat that people want to post, or any last comments from other champs?
Maybe just a plug for Skill Exchange next month.
Yes, absolutely. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
No, go ahead.
I just got it the other day and registered for it, so I would have to look up the dates, but it is next month. It's like 3 to 4 days, 2 to 3 days. Thank you, Mandy. August 14th. And there'll be a whole bunch of different presentations from Adobe and from other champions and other users as well on different topics. So I would encourage everyone to check that out.
Mandy, thanks for posting the date. Would you, by any chance, have the registration link for any attendee on here? That would be good.
I can.
It's above. It is? Okay.
Thank you.
It is. I'm sorry.
Already got it.
Awesome. Glad you guys had the same thought. Skill Exchange. Yep, that's a really good one. Several champs will be presenting there. It's always a good thing to check out live, and also watch recordings for. Those should be available too. So, well, great. Well, this recording will be posted. Thank you for everyone to joining. Hi to my buddy Rick from my former company. Thanks to the other champions, and see you guys next time. Keep on the lookout for next month's invite, and feel free to submit questions ahead of time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.